Sheilas and gentlemen, please give a big Melbourne welcome to the three top drivers, Philippa Massa, Robert Kubica and race winner Jenson Button, who will now all be arrested for driving like bloody maniacs. La 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 la. That is the sound of the speedsters warming up our throats after a short night of sleep and an early morning of motor racing.
That's quite embarrassing. Never normally warm up.
Because it was necessary today. The trick is to start at 10. You go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and then you're Michael Portillo.
You see, that's the experienced broadcaster at work.
I didn't know that.
Good morning, race fans. Good morning, Richard Zog. Did you enjoy the F1 race at Melbourne? What we watched, what was great? Not that that's a leading question.
Blimey, yes. I think after a rather disappointing opening race, that was back to what we really want to see. Fantastic race. Plenty of passing, plenty of on-track excitement, and I thought it was fantastic to see Button getting that result. And, you know, although I thought Lewis would dominate him probably throughout the season,
me too.
Just taking two races, and when he had the car and the opportunity was there, drove a beautiful race, made a very smart decision at the right time.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to eat some words on this because I think I've been banging on a lot recently, going, oh yeah, Lewis will be all over Jenson, and that Hamilton is mentally stronger and doesn't crack under pressure. And actually, what happened in that race? Hamilton's on the radio whining to the mechanics during the race
before they'd even finished the race.
And that's the kind of thing. And I was dissing Button for that last season. That, guys, why is the car so bad? Which I thought was terrible teamwork. And now Hamilton of all people's doing that. So I've ragged on Jenson for being the whiner, because it turns out that Hamilton's all coming apart at the seams already.
Curious you should say that, because I was discussing with Zog before the race this, I'm not sure if it was a statement, but I read somewhere on a very reputable F1 website that a senior McLaren official was concerned for Lewis's fragility, the fact that he was fragile and broken, I think were the words they used, or something very like that.
Really?
And this was mainly down to this whole incident of him fishtailing and donutting a Mercedes on the streets of Melbourne on, was this the Friday night when he got banged?
Can I just say, the reporting of that has been shockingly
Hey!
No, but don't mince your words. Come on, tell us what you think. It's,
as far as I can work out, he didn't donut the car. Now, we know donutting is spinning the car within its own length. You know, you give it a bootful with a bit of lock on, and then you spin the car round. He wasn't doing that, as far as I can work out. He came round a corner, and it's a 500-odd horsepower rear-wheel drive car. He clogged it with the traction control off, as you might, particularly if you're a racing driver and you're well able to control such a thing, and lit up the back tyres a bit. The Australians are very, very strict about such stuff. I was in Sydney recently, and for those of you what know Sydney, there's an area called the Rocks, just down below the Harbour Bridge.
Yeah, I was there.
On Saturday nights, that whole area is locked down. You have to get permission from the policeman who is guarding the road that leads around the Rocks to go down there. We were staying in a hotel down there, and the guy who was driving the car had to pull over and go, I'm just going to this hotel, you know, I'm not a hooligan, because that road was so popular amongst people who wanted to rag their cars up and down. So the Aussies take this very seriously, and that's why they collared him. But as far as I know, he did not donut the car, because that, if you donut on a public road, that is stupid. But if you just give it a bit of wheel spin, I mean, for God's sake, you do
it is technically under the highway code in Britain. It is still technically loss of control of the car, so you're not showing.
But he's a racing driver. He was completely in control.
Well, yes, and we know that. But as you said, loss of control of the car, and I believe the offence that he would have committed under Australian law is deliberately breaking traction. There's some offence to do with deliberately breaking traction on the wheels. And
I think he'll get a penalty for this. I mean, he may well get a penalty from the Australian authorities, but I get the feeling the FIA will have their pound of flesh from Lewis for this, because, you know, racing drivers, Lewis will be rostered, mark my words, on an FIA safe driving campaign at some point. It happened to Schumi in the past too, I'm pretty sure. But what would they do with Lewis?
Hello children, I'm Lewis Hamilton, and I'm here to talk to you about safe driving. Now, safe driving means staying in full control of your 451 horsepower Mercedes C63 that you don't have because you're not a Formula One driver. So this is basically a complete waste of your time. And mine.
Gareth Jones on Speed, featuring Stiff Petrol!
Webber had a busy old weekend as well, didn't he?
Webber.
Weber. Hey, he's starting to sound Austrian, though. Have you noticed? He's starting to sound a little bit like this. It's very weird for
Really?
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
never noticed.
It's the Austrian influence of Red Bull.
You know, they try and
in Milton
standardise
Keynes.
the names of products around the world. So, it's like Jif became Sif,
Yeah.
and Snickers,
Yeah.
which is the marathon in this country. And I just wonder if that Mark Webber should just standardise his name in the Australian pronunciation. So just put 3 extra A's in
Yeah.
his first name,
Mac.
and then replace the E with an I, and it Mark Webber.
Yeah, that's right.
And there you go. Everyone around the world. Oh, who's that guy? Oh, yeah, it's Mark Webber, and you already start to sound Australian or Austrian, depending on which you fancy.
And the other thing I noticed the other day, talking about accents, is in the Williams garage, you've got Nico Hulkenberg, Rubens Barrichello, and Rubens' old Scottish mentor, Jackie Stewart, because Jackie Stewart is the RBS ambassador.
Yeah.
And RBS sponsor Williams, of course. So you had Rubens and Jackie locked in a conversation.
So what do you think? Do you think I should perhaps take that first corner a little slower?
That was Rubens, Jackie's been a big influence on Rubens,
Hey,
for a long time.
I got bumped. I was on the radio yesterday morning talking nonsense on 5 Live, and I got bumped by an hour because they rang me when I was on my way over there and went, yeah, can we move you back to 8:40? It's just that we were going to have you at 7:40, but now we've got Jackie Stewart. And it's very hard for me to go, no, I want to do that. Because let's be honest, they've got someone better. And there's no way you can come back and go, oh, well, I'm not doing it then. Because it's just, obviously they're going to choose Jackie Stewart. And Jackie came on and he's not going to, no.
You should have done it for them.
No.
I would have never known.
An imposter.
We should briefly point out at this point that and this Jackie Stewart of whom you speak is the same Jackie Stewart who did not crash the Zonda that you, Gareth, do not own.
That is correct. Jackie Stewart did not crash.
Strangest news story I've heard all week.
I don't know if anyone followed this, but it suddenly emerged on the web some 48 hours ago that some Pagani Zonda had been crashed. It was Britain's biggest insurance claim because of the amount of damage done.
So the insurance company is claiming whilst getting some publicity.
It was a press release.
Because of that, I think we should strenuously use the wrong name for them. Norwich Union, who have stupidly changed their name to something rubbish like Consignia.
Lots of V's.
So Norwich Union are getting lots of publicity out of this thing. It's not Britain's biggest car insurance claim because
it made a good story.
I think it's the biggest insurance claim for a car that's being repaired, perhaps, rather than a payout on a car that's been duffed.
That sounds reasonable because on the whole, if you've got £300,000 worth of damage to a car, it's probably a write-off.
Exactly. Anyway, so Norwich Union are claiming that, but they're sort of glossing over the other bit. Stupid Norwich Union.
But when this story first broke, it appeared in, I believe, an American car website. Which
Jalopnik, yes.
Yeah, Jalopnik, which said that the car was owned by Gareth Jones, presenter of Gareth Jones on Speed. It was owned by Gareth Jones, not this one of the many other Gareth Joneses that there are.
I mean, no offence, mate, but your name's not that unusual, is it?
It's the Welsh equivalent of John Smith. It truly is. You couldn't be more Welsh than Gareth Jones. All right, so you got both then. Yeah. So, I mean, this Gareth Jones used to produce Depeche Mode famously. Gareth Jones, the investigative journalist who was murdered by the Chinese for uncovering.
No, that was you. Remember, you were murdered by the Chinese that time.
That was me. I forgot that one.
Then you escaped in your Zonda.
Yeah. And then later went on to be the Gareth Jones who in the 1950s died live on the radio whilst performing a live radio play, and the other actors had to jam around him. They had to improvise around
Seriously?
him. Seriously, famously.
Wow.
Yeah.
God, you've had a life, haven't you?
I've had 4 lives. I'm kind of like the Doctor.
Catman.
I've been regenerated. I went through a period where Gaz Top played me as well.
That's right, I remember that. That really was you.
I digress.
So, yes, I thought that was really strange. The fact that Jalopnik ran with it. And I actually had a message from the editor of Jalopnik. There's a guy called Ray, who I'm friends with on Twitter. And he went, "You work with Gareth Jones, what's the story?" And at that point, I didn't know what he was on about. And I thought, well, Gareth probably knows about as much as me. And then later discover it was your car, except of course it wasn't. And I thought, well, actually, those people at Jalopnik probably don't listen to the show, because you'd think you'd have mentioned having a Zonda on this programme, what is about cars and stuff.
It might have passed through my lips at some point.
You know, when we go, how's your car
it.
running? What, my Zonda? Oh, it's not supposed to say that. Sorry, Lexus.
Weren't we talking about Formula One at one point before that news story broke?
We're talking Mark Webber, there we go.
Mark!
Yeah, no,
busy old weekend for Mark Webber.
Bit too busy, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, one of the things
Busy
that you love
smashing
about him
into
is
Lewis Hamilton like a big idiot.
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the things you love about Mark Webber is his determination. He won't give something up, and
absolutely.
we sort of saw, in a sense, the good and the bad side of that. Webber got past Hamilton when he made a little mistake, and then Hamilton got straight back at him, and then they were having a great scrap throughout the race. But then, he was just hanging on a little bit too hard into that corner and stuffed Lewis up the back.
Just
It was
went in,
completely, in as much as it was anyone's fault, it was 100% Webber's fault. He made
as much.
it was his fault. Well,
it was completely Webber's fault. No, I agree with you, absolutely.
I
don't want to point the finger of blame, but I'm blaming Webber for that.
Well, you want them to race. You allow them a bit of sort of...
I don't want to name names, but it was Mark Webber.
I'm not sure entirely who was to blame, but it was Mark Webber.
It was certainly Mark Webber.
I'm glad you were able to read between the lines there.
No, the thing is, you're right, but it was completely Webber's fault. He just went in a bit hot and bang.
Yeah.
That was
and
all
he's
over
probably
for
feeling a
both
little
of them.
bit silly.
And Schumi was trying his darndest in the last few laps as well. I mean, who was he passing at one point? And it was a bit touch and go, to be fair.
Well, Degrassi had a go back at him, which reminded me of Wirtz, Alexander Wirtz. There was that great... The first time we sort of saw Wirtz in a race was at Monaco when Schumacher took him, and then immediately afterwards, Wirtz comes back at him after the hairpin.
In the Benetton.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, so good for Degrassi. And
I don't think I saw the Degrassi thing, because I have to confess I missed the first hour of the race due to a clocks going forward snafu in my house. I'm going to watch it later on iPlayer, but I gather it was really good. But then I did see Schumacher later on. He was towards the end of the race, I think that's what you're talking about, isn't it? He was tussling with... not Hulkenberg.
Well, he was stuck behind, was it Alguersuari?
Alguersuari,
yeah. And then, he did take him a few laps before the end, but he was stuck behind him for a fair old while.
Of the new teams, very pleased that Karen Shanduk finished the race 4 laps down in 14th. Well done, Karen.
Crikey.
Bit of a shocker.
Yes.
And another stalwart performance by Lotus Cosworth. They put Kovalainen in at 13th, with Mike Gascoigne tweeting from the pit wall throughout the race. I'm following him.
Was he?
I would have thought he would have more to do.
That's what I was thinking. I thought that the first time I saw, and this was during a race thing, the last one, Mike, it was during practice. Mike Gascoigne just tweeted from the pit wall, "What are you doing? Tweeting? Get on to work!"
And it's really him.
Allegedly, yeah, we think it probably is, actually.
Hey, I got to... Sorry, this is sort of irrelevant, but I put a new issue of Sniff Petrol up on Friday. I did a mock advert for Sir Sterling Moss as the Fall Guy, the 80s...
we laughed.
Comedy?
We liked
that a comedy or what? I don't know.
It was kind of
anyway,
an action entertainment.
The stuntman one with...
The stuntman, he's the unknown stuntman that made Redford look so... fine. And Sir Sterling Moss's Twitter feed, which I'm guessing is actually done by someone for him, it's not really him, although I gather he is now out of hospital.
He's pretty teched up, though.
It gave me a shout out for it and said it's very funny, which has just made my day. That was so cool. I forgot to mention it, in fact, on Twitter itself, but I'm mentioning it now. So someone within the Sir Sterling Moss organisation certainly has given that a thumbs up, which is good, because I was a bit worried that it might be in bad taste, even though it was supposed to be done with affection. But no, it's got the seal of approval.
Clearly taken in the right
Sterling
spirit.
Moss. But Mike Gascoigne twittering during the race.
Well, it seems to work. You got half the team there, where many of the other teams, including Virgin, didn't manage it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. As you can tell by my reassuring voice and single-syllable first name. Welcome aboard this Nick Worth designed Virgin Atlantic airliner. Our flight time to New York today is slightly shorter than usual because we'll be running out of fuel after about 6.5 hours and plunging horribly into the sea.
I banged up a tweet a couple of days ago regarding the speculation about the suspension system in the Red Bull, because I realised we do need to talk about this very briefly, but we should. Red Bull are running at ultra low ride height, so I cutted up a comedy photo, which I hope got a smile.
Yes.
But just on the subject of the Red Bull being so quick, Ross Brawn asked for clarification about what they are and aren't allowed to do with suspension to be able to control the ride height like that.
Yeah.
Zog and I are trying to reason it through. This
There was talk of some
system.
ratchet arrangement that was allowing them to ride low in qualifying, but then not get any lower when they put all the fuel on board. Yeah, who knows how it works. It's some fiendishly clever F1 stuff.
Well, people are talking about ratchets at the moment. They're talking about a mechanical system. But Ross Brawn, when he said, I want clarification, went on to say a couple of other things, which I don't know if everyone caught. He said, well, we'd be concerned about temperature and the effect on the gases in the dampers. So they're talking about routing the exhaust gases in such a way that it will change. How they're doing it at the front, heaven only knows. It's one possibility, but are they doing something at the back which allows the gas in those dampers to behave differently under different circumstances when they heat up? Is there some kind of aerodynamic device which comes in over a certain speed to do that? I mean, I'm just interpreting what I understood from what he said. I'm not
it's not getting a bit strange, isn't it? But also, we come to a point where in 2010, a Formula One car has an aerodynamic system that relies on the driver's knee blocking a hole. It's a bit bloody Heath Robinson, isn't it? It's just
in a wonderful way. I mean,
I admire the ingenuity, but at the same time, and I always thought, Formula One should be the white heat of progress. It should lead the way. I'm starting to think, strip it right back. They've got to have minimal aero, and they've got to have the most bog basic things, because you look at something like NASCAR, which is so simple that it's almost moronic, but
entertainment.
And I think we've got to abandon this idea that Formula One, because we all know that Formula One technology largely doesn't improve road cars in any tangible way, that road car development happens in parallel rather than as being a direct corollary of stuff that happens in motorsport. So let's just focus on the entertainment and make Formula One cars simple.
Yes and no. I would say that being at the cutting edge or saying you're at the cutting edge doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing things that directly benefit road cars. And I think there is absolutely a place for one being some kind of technical pinnacle. I mean, yes, you could argue that if you're taking off all kinds of systems like traction control, you are actually removing a technical area in which you can do work which is relevant to the real world. But we want better racing. And the thing about drivers controlling airflow and I admire the ingenuity of it. It's a great solution, but you don't want to have drivers sort of flailing around like an octopus in the cockpit to control airflow to different bits of the car. It's dangerous. So if teams take this too far, they're going to have to ban it.
Somebody pointed out that we predicted this a couple of years ago. We were talking about the hole in the Ferrari's nose.
The ocarina, yeah.
And you could play it. We were right. We didn't know we were right. That's Gareth Jones and Speed ahead of our time. So having seen 2 races now, guys, how's it looking for the season? Button's position briefly in McLaren. Suddenly Lewis is under threat. How serious should we take that?
Well, I mean, it's actually rather reminiscent in a way of last year. It suddenly feels very much like last year when Button went into the season with a team that was going nowhere, horrible shape, and they came out with spectacular form, winning the first races. And here, Button has gone into the season with people saying, why is he going to McLaren? He's obviously going to get hammered by Lewis. He's going to have a rotten season, terrible decision. And 2 races in, he's won his first race for McLaren, beating Lewis fair and square, and good on him. Fantastic race for him. And he is now well in that group of drivers who are going to be fighting for the championship. So, yeah, very exciting.
Rich?
I agree with all of that. And, yeah, it was a dismal start to the season, but now Formula One's back in the game. It's interesting again. So, Malaysia, how's that going to be?
It'll be wet. It'll be wet. And Shimi was always good there in the past, but he's going to have to try and catch Nico, who's really getting away from him. I'm deeply impressed with Nico. Well done. Yet to be impressed with Nico Hulkenberg, who I think is great. He's had 2 rubbish races. But hey, all very, very exciting. There'll be more in another Gareth Jones on Speed before long. In fact, which is in 11 days. He was Richard.
Goodbye.
He was Zog.
Goodbye.
And I was Gareth.
To send us an email, see pictures, get song lyrics, join our Facebook fan site or follow us on Twitter, go to garethjones.tv. Gareth Jones on Speed is made in London by Whiz Bang.
Gareth Jones on Speed!